Supalama here. Today you join me at the workbench side of my project room. We are going to, well, I am going to record getting this medeco cam lock for MacGnG keyed up with the blanks he sent me here. They do fit the keyway, but I'll show you guys one of the issues we've got is the keys are, I guess you could say, too tall. If it would focus. So that's the actual key there, and that will rub up against here, which is bad because if the key is currently inserted into the lock, the shell will not actually close onto it without pushing that key out. So first things first is we're going to have to mill this edge down a little bit. Which I've got no issue doing. We will convert the Unimat lathe over to its mill again. This thing sits in mill more than it does as a lathe lately. After we get the keys cut down from the bottom to a point where I'm happy with, I will then, I'll probably use one of my bodies that I've got from MacGnG and mark out where the chambers actually line up, and then give a little bit of a ledge on each one, and we'll work from there. So for now, let's just get this key into the mill and cut it a little bit shorter. Okay, so it is in its mill version here, and I'm going to try and get the best angles I can for the actual mill. Not sure exactly how I'll do that because I have to get my face quite close to make sure I'm cutting correctly, but I will basically be using this Dremel ball end as my end mill. Focus. Sometime. There, yes. So I'll be using that as the end mill. And I've already got my vise here. This will not be where my mill will be sitting. It'll be closer where the camera is currently standing. And I'll just chuck in the key basically like so. I will mark the bottom so that way I know which end is which. And we'll basically cut as needed, really. We don't actually have to cut the whole thing down. The lip here is fine. You can see the lip here is fine, it's just after the lip is an issue. So we'll get rid of all of this material here, which looks like it's the first wording here. But I'll be cutting and checking and cutting and remarking and everything like that. So we'll see how this works out. I've got 3 keys, but I will be taking my time. And again, I'll try and get the best angles. We'll see what happens. Okay, so just gonna grab my seat here. Just finished watching me cut down the bottom of this key, and it was cut down a little bit too much, to be honest, but that's okay. So now what we have to do is we're gonna have to gut this lock. And there are holes here, and I found that these particular medeco locks can be gutted as if it was a best. And what I mean by that is you take a Allen wrench or something that fits in between the holes, and you give them a good whack on the top, just like you would with a best lock to gut it, and it will pop the top off. Now I do have a good top of the few that I've already gutted, and I've got a bag of replacement pins, springs, sidebars, what have you. So should these key pins be too long, should I say, for this key, I can change them if I wanted to. I'll just have to be careful with which order I put them in. Well, I guess I'm making the key, I can do whatever I want, really. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just be quite careful about it here. This is one of my spare cores I have here, and I think, I haven't tested yet, but I think the key will fit. Oh, I betcha. I don't even have a 5-pin core that he sent me. That one still has pins in it. I haven't even gutted that one yet. I've got more pins apparently then. These are all 4-pin looks like, so I can't even try. Yeah. Okay, so these keys are specifically for this lock, so I will have to definitely gut this lock. So, got the other blank keys on the other table. I just went to this table because it's cleaner. So, and I don't even really have to, there, see, it's already folded up. That should actually be enough for me to just pry it off now. Now I can either save this top and flatten it back out and reuse it, or where's my pinning tray here? Or I can just use that other top. There we go. All the springs are always the same. Personally, I would like to keep all the pins that came in this one to stay with Mac as possibly the one he wanted pinned up, but I know he wanted this specific lock pinned. It's rather special, I can see, because it's a 5-pin rather than a 4-pin core that the rest of them were. Let's see here, how will I figure out how high each pin needs to be? Well, first thing I can do is I can mark each chamber on this key, and all I'll do, just give me 1 second and I'll show you guys. Is I will take a black Sharpie, like this, anywhere where I think the chambers will interact with the pins. And I'll take the lock body, insert the key, and you can see now it's not exactly reflective. And I'll take this broken miniature end mill and just go into the chambers, and I'll make sure that the key doesn't move anywhere, and I'll just etch onto the marker where the pins line up, or generically where they could line up. This is a biaxial, so it could be forward or back a little bit. Looking at the key pins though, I don't think, well, we've got a couple offset. Anyway, there you go. You can see where the etches are, where the chambers would line up, which is a nice little trick. Now back to the main question is, how do I determine how high these pins actually sit in the lock? Let me just drop one in. I wonder if I can just pick it up. There. So that's actually pretty high. And that looks like it's, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's angled like that. So I can make note that pin 1 is high and angled left. So that's fine. I wonder if I'll have to make this one pin at a time. Are these master cut at all? Oh, and it is a forward pin, it looks like. Or is it reverse? No, it's pointed back. Okay. This is going to make things very interesting. I might have to actually do sort of an impression on this. I'm gonna have to think of something clever for this one. Where's that key? Here. I'm gonna put the black marker over all the etches again. This is real time figuring this stuff out, by the way. I'm kind of flying blind and figuring things out as I go. Also, hopefully that jazz music in the background is not, which way is that? I think that pin's left. The jazz music I have in the background, hopefully that's not copyright at all. I'm just trying to rotate that. Mac, you may only be getting one key out of this because this is a pain, but we'll see. I want to keep this on camera as much as I can here. What I'm trying to do is because right now the key pin is like this, I'm trying to angle it like this, so that way I can apply pressure onto this. and then I can get an impression onto the that's what I'm looking for, onto the key. And try in my vise with all the medeco carcasses out of the way here. I'm not going to be applying any pressure to the sidebar. That should work. So right now, I've just got the key in there, and I'm just trying to rotate everything over here. Oh, that's almost there actually. I need something like this 15 thousandths here to get just hooked into that. There we go. Okay, so that is the right angle. I'm gonna take, I've got a Chinese pick here somewhere, something I don't care about. There, just a off-the-shelf eBay Chinese hook. Get back over there. I wonder. You wouldn't think making a key would be this hard. No, that must be applying pressure to the sidebar. There. I'm gonna have to do this off camera just so I can get this done. You can kind of see something there. There is a little mark. Don't know if you guys can see it there. Don't know if the camera will ever focus when I ask it to. You can kind of see something right there. So that'll be a good mark there. I hope so anyway. I've never made a key for a medeco before. Okay, well, let's try the next one here. Okay, there it is. So that is 2. If I don't knock the camera over. Which is on an angle like that. And it is also from the rear. Just thinking of other ways I can do this to make things a bit easier on the key making front. It's not super high, but I think there'll still be enough room on the key. Well, let's break out a file and see what happens, but we'll move on to the other table. Give me 1 minute here. Okay, got it in the vise here, and they're relatively good. I can see the mark here, so I'm not going to make a very deep cut, but I will make it so I know that it is in fact a cut. And you just start off nice and easy here. And it does help to have a lot of light on the target here too. I think I'm going to clamp that a little bit higher so I can get a better angle on it. There, it's not moving anywhere. I would really like to be able to get into it, but okay. Just going to bring that lock body over there. And that key pin was facing the rear. And I don't know if you guys can see in there or not, but that cut I just made is more to the back of that chamber, which is good. And I would say that's probably a really good impression. So really all that's left to do on that one is to get the angle and depth. So, I mean, part 1 on chamber 1 is done, I guess. We just have to do that on the rest of them. I'm wondering if maybe I just scribe. For example, if it was the chisel tip is towards the rear of the chamber, I'll just scribe the back of the etch, and then maybe I can make that work. If it's center, I can just center it, and if it's front, I can do the front. I don't know. I'll get back to you guys when I get all that done. Be right back. Okay, so here is the key. You can see 4 cuts here. That's because the 5th one actually rides here perfectly on the edge. It is a rear-facing pin again, but it is also center, and the height of this is perfect. So I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm going to get the angles done on all these on all the key pins, and start to bring them down slowly. But I'll get the angles first, so I'll either get back to you guys with all the angles and starting to work on the heights, or with a finished key. We'll see what happens. Alright, figured I'd check back with you guys. Here is, I would say, 75% of the key done. It's a bit hard to tell right now, but there are actually angled cuts. This one up here, very, very shallow, but it is angled. This one here, you can clearly tell it is angled the opposite direction. The rest of these 3 here are actually straight-on cuts, so it makes it really easy. This one here was a straight-on cut. This one here I'm working on now. And all I'm doing is, I'll show you guys at the end when I do a final assembly, but I essentially put the key in the lock, put the pin in, put a spring on top, and apply pressure with my thumb, and then with the whole assembly held in one hand, I will try to compress the sidebar. If I know the sidebar compresses there, I'll work the key in and out a few times, and then I will always keep pressure with the spring just to simulate the cap being there. So I'll run the key in and out a few times, and then back to the sidebar, check it again. If that checks out a few times through a few cycles, I'm happy, and I move on to the next pin. And so far everything's working out just fine. It does look a little bit delicate, but I think it should be fine. So I just really have to work on pin 5. Pin 4. Pin 5 runs off of here, and again it's a straight-on cut, so nothing actually has to happen here. I just got to work on 4, and this key is done. Okay, I finished the key. There it is there. With angles. And I do currently have all the key pins in there. I'm just covering them up again, substituting that. There's a cap there. And here's my test. I just run the key in and out as if to reset the key pins. And I just depress on the sidebar, and since it works so smoothly, I would say this is a working key. So I just have to cap this off, and that'll be it. I might make a duplicate. I don't know yet. It's very, very finicky making these keys. So we'll see. I'll talk to Mac about it. So that's it, and I'll get back to you guys when it's fully assembled again. Okay, so cam lock is done. I did put the actuator and everything on the back there, but for some reason this key only wants to make it turn left, and I think it's a little bit of the height has to play with it, but I really don't want to bother with that right now. I might make another key, but it does work. It's a little bit finicky, but it does work consistently, turning counterclockwise. Clockwise, it does not want to work whatsoever. I might try and make another key with what we have here, but we'll see. The way I put this cap back on, if you remember, it was slightly bent. I flattened it out, I just folded it back down, and then I used my vise over there, and I just held my finger over it, got it into the vise, key out obviously, held my finger over it and screwed the vise on so it clamped on the top and bottom, and it pressed the brass cap back in place. And then I held my finger on it because I wasn't sure, and again back on this side, clamped it down, and then I ran my fingers over it to make sure everything was under the ledge, and everything's all happy. There's also no marks there showing that I was even there, so also bonus for Mr. Mac for you. Key does work flawlessly, counterclockwise like I said before. Clockwise still doesn't want to go. I really don't want to file at this key anymore because I'm afraid it might not work entirely and then we have no working key. So I'll try probably later to make a new key, and we'll see what happens with that one. Maybe you'll have one that works counterclockwise and one that works clockwise, who knows. But I'm pretty comfortable with leaving it at one key for now and not messing with it. Other than that, that is it. Those were the hardships. As for the key itself, I just kind of guesstimated and eyeballed what the angles were, being this way and that way. You can kind of see them there. The rest of the other three, and again the fifth one was just riding on the edge, so that's perfectly fine. I did not touch my bag of extra pins. What I used is everything that came with this lock. So, MacGnG, hopefully you watch this and enjoy the making of one of your keys. Everyone else, thanks for watching.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.